No line, no tie.
Hey, everybody. Is this working? Is this thing on? It appears to be the case. I hope you're doing well. It is Wednesday, the 25th of February, 2026, and we're here doing that thing that we do, answering traffic and police questions for you. Now, we're trying it a different way. We're using yet again the new cutting edge crap. Normally, we are using Restream and going widescreen, cropped or widescreen across the top of TikTok and most platforms. But now we're going widescreen and vertical, and we're using it differently than we did on the previous streams this week. So hopefully, it's a better experience for you. We'll see if it is. You'll let me know, and from there, we'll know what to do next time. It's always a learning experience. Let me just get a couple of things going. Just a shout out to Diamond and Diamond Lawyers. They're, of course, sponsors of the program, of the live stream, making it possible for me to hang out with you and help you with knowing stuff and things. So if you've got questions, please drop them in. I'd love to hear from you. And I'm going to do some TikTok crap in the background just to make sure everything is running as it should. Liz, I see you. Thank you for the comment. Now, let's see if this works the way it's supposed to. Oh, I got a lot of folks jumping in here. Driver's Ed Dad, he says, oh, hey, fancy meeting you here. Driver's Ed Dad, I think he's my favorite Nova Scotian. Let me see here. Uno momento. Okay, comments are working. Yes. They look visible. Yes. Okay, cool. How does it look? Let me know. Let me know what you think. Do you like this interface? I want to see if I can get this on the other screen. Jessica Fernandez says it's her birthday. Well, happy birthday, Jessica. That's good. How old is you? This is, of course, the question of questions. Because inquiring, you're never supposed to ask ladies how old they are, so never mind. Forget I even asked. Can I get in? I can. Okay, good. That means, is it going to work? It's okay, good. I just wanted to transfer the Instagram feed to a different screen because it was just too much on one screen. I got two computers here doing stuff, but let's just see what's going on before I close this one, which has those chat messages on this screen. We got Drivers at Dead. Dave at Dead says, hello, Sean. I hope you're having a great day. Can't stay long. Well, Dave, I appreciate you for as long as you're here. It's awesome to know that you're here. How's the new gig? I'd love to know. We have to catch up. Drivers at Dad says he knows stuff and things. Awesome. Okay. Library Master, I see you. Okay, I'm just going to close this window. Hopefully it doesn't break anything. Just transferring from one computer to another. Okay, very good. Okay, what we got here? We've got Munch says, Sean, love your stuff. Can you explain / talk a little bit about truck trailer safety in Ontario? Truck trailer, when you're talking about commercial motor vehicles, or truck trailer being guy with a trailer, because there's a difference. And honestly, we have something called a blue card within the policing world, at least in the Toronto police world, and that's the card you get when you're qualified to operate with a trailer. Well, I never did my course. So, I mean, I did create a training program with the assistance of the commercial motor vehicle inspection team. And with that team, they gave me a lot of stuff to say, and I said it. But that by no means am I an expert. So, having the chains done properly, yeah, I know. Making sure you're not overweight, that you're distributing weight, but I'm not the master of that. So I'm the wrong guy to do it. And maybe that's a signal that I should get my friends who are the pros to come in and create some content specifically about truck trailer or safety. If you're talking about big commercial motor vehicle stuff, I would suggest, and it's less about the driver, the commercial motor vehicle operator, and more about the people who are driving in and around big trucks, because folks don't get it. People do not seem to understand that big trucks need space and have a lack of visibility. There's like a 20-foot gap in front of the vehicle, the big rig, where they see nothing. And I keep talking about these same few accidents or collisions that stand out, where people have zigzagged and zoomed into the space they see as a good idea in front of a big rig, and then ended up becoming smushed by said big rig, or at least pushed down the road a ways, because the big rig couldn't see them, couldn't avoid them. It's not that even their fault. It was the dumb who pulled in front of them. Trying to be nice about it. Uh, oh, Liz says I'm freezing here and there. Interesting. Well, at least I can blame the folks at Restream for any instability with the stream now, because it's not me doing it. But I appreciate you letting me know. Liz says I keep cutting out. Let me know if anybody else is having the same experience. Is it cutting out? We are using a beta platform for the widescreen split, and maybe it was better the way we were doing it with Ecamm Pro. If you're looking for great software, Ecamm Pro is amazing if you're a Mac-based creator or live streamer. But that's another story. We can talk about tech another day. And the wonderful, well, trying different stuff. Also with YouTube, we're both vertical and horizontal on YouTube. It's pretty cool that we can do that. Urban Orbit, how you doing? Michael, howdy. And Eric Eastlake, how are you? See you jumping in. And okay, we got TV there too. Now, let's see what's going on. Yeah, if you see any technical issues, please let me know, because I appreciate knowing. I can't always fix it, but knowing it helps me figure it out later. Closing this window. Yeah, I can quit Zoom. Let me quit Zoom. Yep. Zoom, I think Zoom is a resource hog. Okay. Drivers at Dad says, do you think that pickup truck drivers who want to put a plow on the front should have to do a certification to do so? That's actually a really interesting idea. I'd never really given it any thought, but you're totally changing the dynamics of the vehicle, not only the way it responds to wind, but what happens when things go bad. It's not a requirement under law in Ontario, and I don't know of any jurisdiction that requires it, but I think it's a really good idea. And I think a lot of people would hate you for making the suggestion. But when it comes to safety, putting that plow in the front of a vehicle makes it differently and possibly unsafe. I don't want to go so far as to say it was actually unsafe, but it definitely changes things. Interesting concept. Melody, what do you think? Melody, the mechanic, is in the chat on TikTok. And if you want to know stuff and things about, well, mechanical stuff and things, specifically automotive and, truck stuff, a wealth of knowledge beyond that of the stuff that I know about, because I'm not a mechanic. Let's see what we got here. Oh, if you're watching on TikTok, please share, send some likes to the live stream. It does help bring more people to the party. The more people you bring to the party, the more questions and stuff you find being asked, and we get questions we didn't even know we needed. It's a good thing. Al Bagel says, thank you for your job, sir. Well, you're very welcome. My job is not really a job so much as it's something that I like to do to give back. I'm no longer a police officer. However, I still contribute because I know stuff and things, and I want to help you avoid those pesky charges. So if you are interested in getting answers to your questions, drop them in the comments, share the stream with your friends, tell them that they got to come in here and learn some stuff and things. And yeah, it's there is stuff to be learned. We always have a lot of fun. And I'm doing this for about an hour. By the way, if you're watching and you don't know who I am, my name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a former police officer who talks about traffic safety, traffic law, and police stuff. And it's my goal to help you learn stuff and things. And what that is, it depends, because everyone's got different questions. We always go somewhere we didn't know we were going to go when we start the live stream. Melody says driving safety or safety inspections. And Munch says commercial motor vehicles. He's a trainer of 14 years and preach professionalism, but it seems the industry image is low. Munch, reach out to me. Maybe you should be on the show. We do a podcast and talk about commercial motor vehicle safety. I'm all for it. I'm actually in the process of getting together with a couple of really cool they're not podcasters, they're professionals. I have a former Crown that we're going to talk about impaired driving stuff. He's no longer a Crown. He can talk about stuff. Really excited to talk to him. We've got some folks from York Region who do the Road Watch program. I didn't know as much. I thought I knew what it was. I didn't realize how cool it was. And we're going to talk to them in the next month or so. So that'll be a podcast episode unto itself. Okay. What's Poopster69? He says, hey, my license plate coating is peeling off and the letters are losing their color. Now what? This is a really good question. What series is your plate? If it's a B series, it's defective and you can probably get it replaced for free. If it is newer and not covered, If you can prove that it's or convince them that it's defective, they might replace it for free. Otherwise, it's 51 or $52. And if it gets really bad, not getting it changed will result in police likely pulling you over and charging you. The fine is $110, and it is something you're responsible to do. People get really upset about this because they say, well, I don't even own the plate. I'm just kind of renting it. It's the ministry who owns the plate. Why is their failing product going to result in me having to either pay more money or get charged? And it's just the nature of the beast. You have to ensure that you are displaying a plate in good condition. You can't put covers on it. So, being in Ontario or in Canada as general, you're going to see those seasons in salt and all sorts of abuse, but it is your responsibility. So, if you're B series, check them out. They might replace it for free. If it's not, see if you can sell them idea. If it's not terrible, just slowly discoloring, it is what it is. If it's falling apart, yeah, you could be getting a ticket for that $110. Melody says operated a lot of plow trucks, wouldn't want a licensed required for it. No, a lot of people wouldn't want it. I totally get that. But the same time, I think there's a lot of people who shouldn't even be driving a regular vehicle, and those people would be eligible to put a plow on their vehicles too. So I kind of like the idea. Well, first of all, I think we should requalify all drivers on a regular basis to ensure that they are in fact safe for the road. Because have you looked outside of your window when cars are going by, or being in a vehicle looking at any other vehicle on the road? It's kind of wild out there. It's problematic. Okay. User error says, I got you, brother, from Burlington. What's going on, Burlington? Good to see you. Ryder Meany says, what did you do to help yourself get hired? Oh, we can talk about employment stuff. Munch says, I would absolutely love that. Check out Munch at Net. I'll DM you. I'll be on the lookout for you. And Poopster says, thanks for the answer. Shub says, I think it's Shub or Shubba, says, we need to increase the difficulty of the test to get your license. It's a legitimate statement. We were talking about this on Tuesday when I did the live stream after or in the morning, and it's a major issue that we have people who really have no business being on the road, but for various reasons they got it, whether it be through fraud, whether it be through coming from another country or jurisdiction where maybe they had a one-horse town and they had no real experience other than meandering in a not so busy place. And now they're in Toronto and it's wild and crazy times. That could be a reason. So maybe we need a city license versus a country license. And I don't mean that because I don't mean that in a bad way, because there are country drivers that are way better than city drivers. One of the major issues, I think, is the fact that people are waiting until they're 40 to get their license now. Now, anyone who's under 40 and has their license, kudos to you. There's a tremendous delay because people who live in urban areas now use Uber and TTC or public transit. There's options. And when I was a kid, it really wasn't an option. Like, yeah, they had TTC, but if you wanted to get anywhere, especially living north of the city or in the north end of the city, you got to have your own wheels. And I was fortunate to have that opportunity. The day I turned 16, I got my learner's permit. A month later, I had a full class license. And that was before, obviously, graduated licensing. But wouldn't it have been, different if I had to wait, 8 months to even get my G2 and drive on my own? Like, it would have changed things. And how does someone who, doesn't have wheels available to them or a family member who's licensed get an opportunity? Like, there's so many complications. Some people just say, screw it. And then there's a financial side of it. You talk about people who have the latest tech in a nice apartment downtown and don't have a car. Well, sure, they have like $1,000 a month more free spending money that's not being wasted on car payments or insurance. There's a lot of interesting reasons why people choose not to drive. I don't know. I could not be without a car. I don't understand life without cars. What do we got here? Scrolling through. Driver's Ed Dad says, in Nova Scotia, if you have a plate that starts with G or H, they'll replace them for free. Anything older is subject to a replacement fee. Interesting. So that's within the warranty. There's a 5-year warranty on your plates, in Ontario anyway. Driver's Ed Dad says, my dad has glaucoma and is no longer allowed to drive at night. And if he gets any worse, he'll have to give up his license altogether. That said, he's all right not driving, but gets his driving in on his side-by-side on the trails and with the plow. Interesting. I always talk about the fact that my grandfather, who has since passed away, was driving till he was 94, and then he had a collision. He kind of sideswiped the car, and the attending officer did the collision report and pulled me aside and said, "Sean, he shouldn't be driving anymore. This was his fault." So I had a conversation with my granddad and said, maybe it's time to turn in the keys, and he agreed, and it was over. He made the choice; it was still within his control, and that was the right way to do it. Telling people they can't do it, as opposed to sort of allowing them to make their own decision, is tough because he qualified, right? He did the tests. He was 94, but he passed all the requirements, even the road test. As you get older, some things get harder. That's not to say that you shouldn't drive when you're a certain age. If you're capable, you're capable. I'm just glad that he was rational and capable of making that decision. We got Barack, who says, "Hey, Sean Shapiro, now a lot of stupid drivers on the road. So much people are dangerously on the road." It's true, 100% true. It is part of the game when you put a lot of people in a mixed environment. You get all sorts of different experience levels and skills, and you go by the lowest common denominator. A lot of people say, "Well, I'm a great driver." You might be a great driver, but if you looked at everybody else, it's a problem. Everyone thinks they're a good driver. Carson wants to know if I am related to Ben. I'm not aware of any relation to Ben. And I always say the same thing. I am tall, he is short. He has hair, I don't. He has a high-pitched voice in relation to mine anyway. I have a low voice. So I don't think there's any DNA that puts me in a close relationship to Ben. What's Karan saying? Are you allowed to have sun strips on the front window glass? No, sort of. 2016 and older, you could get away with having the 3-inch sun strip on the front of your windshield. That's from the top of the windshield to the AS1 line. I think I started calling that a PS1 line for PlayStation, but whatever. That it got all mumble jumbled. But the answer is no. 2017 or newer, you're not allowed to have anything on the windshield at all whatsoever. No tinted windshields. And I still see it all over the place. Whether it's enforced, I couldn't say. And Melody jumped on that quick and said, older than 2017 can have one. Shub says, there's so much that you learn after the fact. Why isn't it included in the prep? Okay. That's a good question. Listen, people think that the G1 and even the G license is like, you're a licensed driver, you're good to go. You can always benefit from advanced driver training. You can always benefit from continued education. The problem is nobody does it. They rely on, their uncle, their brother, their cousin, their sister, whoever has experience and has been driving, they allow them to teach them. And then what happens is they pick up all their bad habits. Professional driver training is expensive in comparison to not having professional driver training. However, the benefit of actual, real, good quality driver training, it's you can't compare. It's phenomenal. And I've taken obviously advanced driver training with policing. I've had motorcycle training as a police officer. I'm a level 3 operator, or at least was. And that kind of experience still needs additional training. Like when you want to be a level 3 operator, you don't just go there and take class 1, 2, and 3 and you're good. It's a year of experience in between each element when possible. So something to think about. How much experience do we actually need to get? One driver gets their learner's permit and gets a license. And the only time they ever drove was to get their license. What if they never drove in between? That graduated licensing program, if they only did their road test, waited 8 months, took a driving test, lessons and a test, and then got their G2 and then didn't drive a car until they took their G, if they passed, they had 3 days of driving or 15 or 30 days of driving over a period of time of at least 2 years. But that doesn't make them a better driver. It just made them wait. Maybe they were more mature. So it's interesting. Shub got his license, his permit the day he turned 16 too, or they turned 16. Melody says, I was driving a truck on main roads at 12. Getting a license was easy. Her grandpa drove a 78 Pinto from Vancouver Island to Calgary at 89 years old alone. Power to him. I appreciate the folks that are, older, independent, and still with it. It's not everyone. Everyone ages differently. Now, earlier on, I said I'd talk about employment because there was a question about how I made myself a good candidate. Let me find out where it was. Ryder, what did you do to help yourself get hired? Well, a lot of things. I volunteered, like a lot. I was involved in a lot of different organizations. I was involved with those organizations, not just so I could, tap the box and say, I did it, but I actually was involved in those community organizations. Then I became an auxiliary officer, and for a long, well, for 6 months I was a volunteer before I became a court officer, and I was now employed by the police and volunteering for the police simultaneously. I volunteered for the police for 12 years before I became a police officer, and I was a volunteer in other organizations as well before applying to become even an auxiliary. So I did a whole bunch of stuff, and the deal is that volunteerism is great. Education is great. Really helps you stand out from the crowd. So if you've got lots of folks who are, uh, trained up and universitied and colleged up, well, you're competing against those people. So if you want to stand out, you have to at very least be on the same playing field. Now, I can tell you quite seriously or quite honestly that across the planet, there's a shortage of people who want to become police officers. Have you seen the footage in New York City right now where cops are being pelted with snowballs? They're not being treated with respect. Why would anyone want to put that uniform on and go serve? It's not good advertising. It's not good advertising on a good day. It's not a good advertising when cops get killed. It's not good advertising when cops get charged because they're bad. It's not good when police officers who are good get charged because someone makes false accusations. It's a tough job. It's the best job in the world, but there's a lot of stress involved. You hear about cops dealing with PTSD. Like, we're not making good advertising. We're not telling people it's going to be easy. You're going to make tons of money. There's overtime, like mandatory overtime. Like, you got to work in the cold. The advertising isn't what it used to be. When I was a kid, I got sold on policing by watching Chips, California Highway Patrol motor cops out there saving their day in their own special way. And I loved it, right? They always helped people. They were always appreciated. That was the advertising that I saw when I was a kid. It's a different advertising for the current generations of possible police officers. And how much can we sell about helping the community and doing the right thing and being important? When you see the news who are actively vilifying police officers in many cases, can't say everybody, but many cases, the stories that sell are the stories that paint police poorly. So those are the ones that get told more. You don't hear about the millions of excellent interactions that police have saving the day in their own special way in the cities, in the communities. You don't hear about that. You hear about the ones who screwed up. You hear about the ones that get arrested. You hear about the ones that got charged for impaired operation. Because you know what? Cops are still human. They make mistakes. Some cops are criminals, just like the doctors who are criminals and lawyers who are criminals. And because criminals are criminals, they may get different jobs because they seem to fool people, but there's good people and bad people, and some are in different places and doing different jobs. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is volunteer, get good at stuff, and be honest. Be really honest and open. When you are, it's tough because you're being judged when you apply for something, but you got to be straight with the people. Like, you trying to tell people that you are a perfect individual in every way. Be real. You know what? Like, I remember when I was 16, I think it was about 16, I met my friend's coach officer because he was an auxiliary. I keep talking about this story because he asked some questions. Like, he said to me, "Have you ever tried drugs?" And I said, "No." And he says, "Come on, you can tell me." And I'm like, "But I haven't." Like, he didn't even believe me, but I hadn't. And the crazy thing is that he says it's okay because if you tried it and you realized it wasn't for you, but you had the experience, makes you understand and relate more to someone who's gone through it. And he was talking about simple marijuana, which wasn't legal at the time and now is. It was interesting to hear that perspective. In addition to the whole, what if and being honest, languages. You really do give yourself a bonus by learning additional languages. I've studied Russian, Spanish, and a whole bunch of others. Not that I'm proficient in them, but I've tried. I've taken courses, and some are easier than others. I will tell you that. ASL, there's one that a lot of people take, and it's a checkbox to help you. Listen, knowing it's important. I've heard of people who have put on their application that they are fluent in a particular language. I think the one that I heard the story about was Italian. In fact, it was my friend who's now a sergeant in York Regional Police. He told me the story about when he got hired. He was a court officer with me, and he went off and became a police officer in York after being a court officer in Toronto. Anyway, he told me that when he went for his interview, and he is Italian, and he put down he speaks Italian. During the interview, they swapped out an individual, left the room. The new individual comes back, and the rest of the interview was in Italian. Boy, if you lied, you would look bad. He obviously got hired and he has since been promoted. But holy moly, don't lie. That is bad. And of course, being physically fit and all that jazz and being able to score high on your tests, these are all important things. But be a good person. If you're a good person, you got a good chance of being a good cop. And if you're a good cop, if you're a good cop candidate, you're probably going to get hired. Matthew wants to know if you can modify your bumper. What do you mean by modify? Do you mean like put a skirt package on it? Do you mean like replace it with something else? Can you make spikes? And what do you want to know about it? Because that's a very specific question. Danny Mack says or asks, are you supposed to renew your green slip ownership every year? Mine shows expired. So it used to be that when you renewed your license plates, you got a little sticker. That little sticker went on the back of your ownership and that renewed or endorsed your ownership to say it was renewed. Now you get it renewed at no cost and automatically, as long as you don't have any debt or I should say, fines on your account, anything owing. And if you have something owing, they're going to send you a letter saying you cannot be automatically renewed. You have to go deal with your stuff. Now, the expired date is no longer really relevant. It was the initial expiry on the face. But now when you renew it, you're going to get a piece of paper that says you're renewed and you're good. But unless you change your address or go in and paid, I think, to get it reprinted, your expiry is going to be inaccurate. That is not what the police use to determine whether or not your paperwork is valid. What they use is their computers. They'll take your information, they go back to the car, they determine whether or not you are up to date or not. Okay, scrolling over here. Brandon says, hey, Sean, sorry I'm late. I'm in Epcot at Vienna Poli for dinner and lost track of time. Seeing as you are in Florida and experiencing the magic of, Vienna Poli, which as a restaurant, I don't think I've tried, and I'm a big fan of Epcot. You having the kids' meal? Just inside joke. But yeah, we're cool. No worries about being late. No fines for showing up to the live stream. And I just realized that TikTok is getting a raw feed from the camera, so you are not seeing when I click on the text on screen that YouTube and other platforms are seeing. So apologies for looking and speaking about stuff that's on screen that you're not seeing. Let's see here. Oh, okay. Scrolling back for a second. I just want to acknowledge Brandon's comment that you're also not going to see that says third watch sold me, but I pivoted and became a chef. So I how do I address this? Brandon and I connected at the auto show and got to chat about a whole bunch of stuff. We've been talking about getting together for a long time, and it finally happened. Very cool. We had an awesome order of wings at an awesome wing place nearby the auto show, and just got a chance to catch up and talk cars and all things, even challenge coins. But the funny thing is we didn't talk about Third Watch. And a quick thing about Third Watch is I was a court officer when that was on TV. It was 2000. I was working cells, and everybody was so hung up on that show. It was amazing. And then it was gone. It was a very sad day. But Third Watch was, if you've never seen it, you should check it out. It's pretty awesome. It was the Third Watch was the shift, and you had fire, police, and ambulance. 3 stories that were overlapping and intermingling, and it was really good. And Emily, I see that you have a question, and I'll get to you in just a second. So the deal is that it made a lot of people want to be cops. And where I was it was the 70s when I wanted to be a cop, but definitely that was another awesome television show. So many shows glamorize police. That one was really hard. It was more emotional. It was more the less fun version, but it was still captivating. And they had good music. That's one of the reasons it didn't come out on DVD, because they couldn't get licenses for the weird stuff. I know, like Crystal Method did the theme song, but it couldn't get the rights for a whole bunch of the music because they always ended off in some kind of like dive bar with live music. I think that's how it went. Ed wants to know what the funniest thing you've ever seen as a traffic cop. I don't know. I've seen a lot of good and I've seen a lot of bad. And I can't. I get the question now and again, and I don't know which one to choose. So it's a tough go. Sabin, I'll get back to you in a second because I got to go back and talk to Emily. And I see that Smelly Boy's mom is in the chat. I'll come back to you in a second. She has a cell phone question. So what's Emily's question? Um, they say, I was a tow truck driver in Niagara region and I was hit on the QEW due to a transport not slowing down or moving over. And the OPP officer told me it wasn't reportable. Was it? Should he have been charged? If you were hit, you were hit by the truck. If you had, well, first of all, the reportable for them not moving over, no, they're probably not going to be able to justify tracking them down other than a report where they contact the registered owner of the vehicle if you were able to identify it. But if they actually struck you, it's absolutely reportable. It's a fail to remain collision if they just kept going. And if it was more than $5,000 damage, it's a reportable collision. They didn't stop. Well, any contact and they hit and run, like that's reportable. I'm trying to think of any reason why you being struck. Were you injured? It was not only if you were injured or taken by ambulance to the hospital, it was not only reportable, but a required reporting. Like, I need to know more. I need to know more. Seawood Dashcam Videos says, I would make a great, they say themselves, they would make a great officer except for their political views. Interesting. You know what? We have people of all political. It's a very diverse police service. You know, back in the day, really cops were all conservative, and as things have progressed, there's people with non-conservative views and different views. We have people of all, political. I don't know. People who don't always agree, even though they wear uniforms. Okay. 1 second. Got to come back here. Ed likes my shirt. Well, thank you, Ed. Liz says, learn ASL for sure. I wish more drivers knew ASL so that I could sign to other drivers stuff like their headlights or brake. That's a good idea. Oh my God. We should create a bunch of signals that we can this is just something we should start ourselves. Forget ASL. We need to come up with the hand signals, and I'm not making fun of ASL. I just have no idea what to say. Okay. We need to come up with hand signals that mean headlight or something. Like as a motorcycle operator, you would tap your head for something. You would point to your like there were a ton of hand signals. We need to come up with some hand signals. We got to promote them. We'll make videos about it. We'll teach people how to tell people things other than the bird. That would be so useful. What a great idea. You are awesome, Liz. But we knew that. Okay. Someone says somebody came in to sell me followers on Kick. I'm good, thank you. I always find that entertaining. Okay, let me scroll back. And I said I would come back to Smelly Boy's mom's cell phone question. I see when you joined. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything before you. Okay. So just before you, Drivers of Dad said, I get a lot of people in the training car looking to learn how to pass their test after they get a medical suspension. I usually just take them for a drive and see if they can drive. And that's probably a good thing. I'm sure as a driving instructor, you see all sorts of stuff. Drivers of Dad goes on to say, I agree, Sean. Everyone should pay me to teach them to drive. Yes, I have no question that would be helpful for you. Okay, so the cell phone question from Smelly Boy's mom is, I never touched my phone while I'm driving, but this morning I realized I was paying for my coffee at a drive-thru with my phone. Could I be charged? So the deal is that the Highway Traffic Act in Ontario, and I'm pretty sure you're in Ontario, says that you cannot use or use your device, your handheld communication device, handheld communication, handheld entertainment, or have a screen visible to the driver on the highway. So by virtue of the wording of that charge, it doesn't apply to private property, whereas some charges do apply, like careless driving. So if you were carelessly operating your motor vehicle and it resulted in a collision, could you be charged for careless? Yes. Just holding your phone to pay for your Timmies? No. Now, in other jurisdictions, such as, Alberta, they could charge you because their distracted driving laws are completely different. In fact, drinking a glass of water, having a bite of your sandwich could result in distracted driving charges. I don't agree with it, but it's there. It's something they're eligible for, or you're eligible for there. Peter John William, good day. Driver's Ed Dad says, technically, yes. However, drive-throughs exist on private property, and the rules are often different on private property when it comes to enforcement. There you go. Same, different. Uh, Driver's Ed Dad says, in 2000, when I started as a court officer, he was in grade 9. And he always wanted a message board on the back of his car. Okay. All right, scrolling back because I missed a whole bunch of stuff on TikTok, and then we'll come back and see where we are. 35 minutes in, and we're aiming for an hour tonight. Last week, it was wild. Last Wednesday, we went for 2.5 hours. It was super busy. Tonight, not so busy. So I don't know what could possibly be more important than watching this live stream. But who knows? Who knows? Let's see here. Brandon says, my uncle worked at a paid duty security gig for Third Watch, and I was able to meet Skip Sudduth, who played Sully, and Jason Wells, who played Bosco. Two amazing characters. I want to go watch reruns of it now. That's a great show. I don't think my wife has ever seen it, so I can relive that whole experience. But will the audio be good? Because the re-released version had different sounds. I just don't know how I feel about that. The guy who played Doc was great. He was one of my favorite characters, and he's been in so many different shows since then. Just as an aside. Okay. Danny Mac says, "Are you supposed to?" We talked about that. I saw him again, and he said, "Perfect, thank you. You're very welcome." Okay. Emily says it was on camera. That particular that I need to know more. So you got struck, and how is that not reportable? But you were not injured. But was it more than $5,000 damage? Like, that's a reportable collision. That's a fail to remain. What other kind of hit could you be? Like, just knock the mirror off? Like, a mirror is over. It's got to be $1,000, right? It needs to be $5,000 as of January of 2025. Seawood Dashcam Vid says, Third Watch and Night Court are the best from different eras. Night Court is totally different. Never wanted to become a cop because of watching Night Court, although I was a court officer watching reruns. And that was interesting because the bailiff there. Cardboard Master says, hey, remember me? I like from the other live stream when we talked last time. Yeah, I remember you. If it's another remember you, like I remember you last time you were in the live stream. Let's see here. We have, is it Kamar or there's no U, so I think it's Kamar or Kamar. I got a speeding ticket for under 10 kilometers over. Officer said it won't affect my insurance, but it did. Why? Well, because what the officer meant, and it's partially a misunderstanding, what many officers believe is that demerit points are what impact insurance. It's not. The conviction of speeding is what impacts your insurance. The points, which don't kick in until 16 kilometers over and above, those impact your ministry record. The ministry is tracking your driving ability. So if you suck as a driver and you accumulate points, they say, hey, we're going to send a letter out if it gets to this point. And if it gets to the next point, well, we're going to suspend your license. Basically, it's for tracking your ability to drive. Points stay on your license from 2 years from the date of the incident, and convictions stay on your license for 3 years after the date of conviction. Two different date streams. And the reason is insurance companies look at your conviction rating and the ministry looks at your points rating, and they're not the same. So even a minor ticket, even forgetting to bring your driver's license with you, could result in an increase of your insurance. Like if you get a benefit for 0 tickets, yeah, you lose that when you get a ticket for something as simple as, or I should say you can, depending on the policies and procedures of that particular insurance company, because everyone makes their own. They're a private company. They could increase your rates. They could use it as an excuse to increase your rates. You know what the way to avoid that is? Don't break the law. And I know I sound like a broken record by telling everybody to not break the law, but it's really good advice. Do you ever play the traffic cop song anymore? I do. Do you mean the one at the intro, or play it like continuously throughout the things? I played the intro when we started the show. So I can certainly cue it up and bring it. I think it's a great show, great song, but it does. Some people have complained that it's hard for people to hear me. So I skip and I can't decide whether or not to play it or not play it. By the way, if you have any dad jokes you want to share, send them along. We like dad jokes here. Just a quick question. Okay, cool. See what Dashcam says. I was 16 in the year 2000. Everyone's having a laugh at how old I am, apparently. Cool name, which is upside down typed, and says, when can I pull? What is this? When can I pull into the right lane, HOV lane, if I need to eventually make a right turn on Dufferin and Finch? That's a good question. Also, I see Matthew Matthews who says, hey, Sean. Hey, Matthew Matthews. So when can you pull into the right lane? When can you pull into the HOV lane? Well, news for you. HOV lane appears on 400 series highways. The diamond lane on Dufferin is actually not an HOV lane. And I see Wayne who wants to jump into the live. We'll come back to you in just 1 second. Oh, you have to go again, but wait a second, Wayne. We'll bring you back. So the question is, when can you go in? So it's a multi-use lane. You can absolutely signal when safe to do so. You can enter that lane if you are going to turn onto a street or into a driveway from that lane. And you can do that whenever it's safe to do so. What you can't do is continue driving in that lane beyond the following intersections. So if you're signaling that you're going to turn and then you choose not to turn and you go straight through, meaning you're misusing that lane, well, if you don't qualify to be in that lane, you can get charged at that point. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Wayne, who says, Sean, could you do me a favor? And then asked if they could jump into the live stream. You can jump into the live stream and you can ask your question. You just need to come back in and ask. Hassam says, Hassam, I don't know how to pronounce your name. What happens if someone misses their court hearing for an expired driver's license and failure to show insurance proof? So here's the deal. If you are given a court date and you don't appear, one of two things can happen. They can issue a bench summons or warrant, which means that someone was going to come and tell you that you have to appear. And they can, in fact, if it's a warrant, they can arrest you and bring you to court. Or they can convict you. One of three things, I suppose. They can convict you in your absence. Now, usually with the more serious offenses, they're going to give you a number of tries. They're going to try and serve you again. They're going to give the bench summons. And if no bench summons functions, a bench warrant, which is the next, step up in the right direction where they get more serious against you. And if you simply don't have, if you don't appear because you're ignoring it, they can have an ex parte trial. What does that mean? It means they have the trial without you. And then they convict you and you get all the benefits of having lost the trial, even though you never showed up. So they can try. They can put a bench warrant out. And if for whatever reason they can't get you in front of the court, ex parte trial, which means without you, and they convict you based on the end. And now they may not convict you. They may find that the evidence was not substantiated, or they bring the evidence, like they bring the insurance company in who testifies that, yes, you had no insurance. It's a problem. And that charge for not having insurance, $5,000 to $25,000, not fun. $5,000 to $25,000 and up to 6 months in jail. So there you go. Too Easy B58, who I have to make a video response for, asks, how do cops check for catless downpipes specifically on BMW? Audio, visual, generally speaking. If they suspect that it's not proper, they'll probably write you the ticket. It doesn't have to be verified with triplicate evidence. It's if they hear that it's not running properly, if they check underneath. Very often the cats are somewhere in the stream, usually in the underside of the vehicle, and they'll have a look and make a visual determination. They will charge you. And it's as simple as that. You need to prove that you have it, not the other way around. People will say, that's not fair, but that's the way it is. When I did my training for Ontario, I was told you can use a diamond lane for 60 meters prior to turning. And driver said dad follows up to say that was a decade ago. You know what? It may be 60 meters prior to turning. I'm not familiar with that number. That doesn't mean it's not accurate. As a police officer observing it, I have never had an issue, and I've always told people to do it the way I'm doing it. So if you were prevented, or if you were not permitted to go more than 60 meters, great rule to go by. My big thing is if you're making the turn, it's coming up, that's when I would go. But I love that. Now you're going to make me look things up so I can learn more stuff and things. The one with the ukulele, hang on a second. Oh, that traffic song, the ukulele. Oh, I've not played that in forever. I will cue that up and figure out where that's stored and play it. It's a great song. Oh, come on. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can find that. Not the song I thought we were talking about. Stand by. Traffic song. Eh. Hold on. Now I'm really, I haven't heard that in forever. I do have a video of it on traffic song. No. No, I don't know where that is right now. But thank you for reminding me that it exists. We will see what we can do about bringing that in soon. Great song. That's my friend who wrote that and performed that. It's awesome. Okay. 46 minutes. We got 14 minutes to go. Okay. Can they send? They can send it for. Oh, and Melody says they can send it for inspection, but for sending it for inspection, they usually there's no document other than sending taking their plates away for unsafe motor vehicle that I'm aware of. I'm not familiar with the form that they would just send it for inspection, but usually it's a visual themselves for the purposes of charging. Munch says, have you ever, during a traffic stop, allowed your heart to take over and emotion blinded your duties? What do you mean? Do you mean, did I ever give anybody a break because I felt bad for them? Sure, absolutely. Did I regret it? Sometimes. I had somebody that I charged because that I reduced their stunt driving charge to a non-stunt driving charge to a simple speeding because, they were crying their eyes out, mascara everywhere, and I felt bad for them. And I crocodile tears worked, and that person still went to fight their ticket that they absolutely deserved, and I regretted having given them a break. Yes. Too Easy B58 says, I see so many people with catless downpipes and whatnot. It's so bad for emissions. 100%. That's why it needs to be charged. And I'll tell you, anyone with noisy pipes, I used to pull over because it was annoying. I shouldn't say anyone. If they were really obnoxious, which is, that was my threshold. If it was a fart can muffler, it got my attention. And I really don't like those pipes. Like, if you are waking up babies that are napping in the middle of the afternoon, or in my case, I'm in a not very built up area, and I can hear them in the major street like a kilometer away, it's too loud. It's too loud. Hassan says, is failure to show insurance proof equals to not having insurance? No. Fail to surrender insurance card is a $65 charge. Being charged for driving without insurance is $5,000 to $25,000. Totally different charge. I assumed you were talking about the drive no insurance. However, if you just got the no insurance slip, that's a much less serious. Obviously, it's a document charge. Okay. Is failure to show insurance? Sorry, isn't no cat's downpipe impound? It's an emissions. I don't believe that it's an impound. No, I think it's just it could. I don't think it even really follows for. Hang on a second. I don't think that's I don't think that something's going to take them off the road. I certainly didn't take anybody off the road for it. I charged them for improper muffler. And there's even more serious charges for environmental stuff. But they changed it after. So let's see here. Emissions. It used to be the environmental, what the heck was it called? Act, which is now part of the HDA, like environment. No. See, no muffler is just $110. And let's see, but I can't remember the keyword to search here. I'll have to look it up another time. But it is obnoxious and unnecessary. Unnecessary. Yes. Liz says, third watch was my addiction. When it was in syndication on weekday mornings on Spike TV in the early 2000s. Always left late for work. I had to watch every rerun. You watched reruns in 2000s? How early are we talking? I thought it was fresh in 2000. Okay. What happens if someone is speeding to get a passenger to the ER? I like this question. Why is anyone speeding to go to the ER when they should be calling an ambulance? Now, I understand driving safely to the ER to ensure the ER for emergency room. Someone who's injured and needs to go there. I like everyone gets stressed out and rushes and makes really silly moves and risks making it impossible to get to the ER because they themselves become a patient. So we in policing we talk about guaranteed arrival. We talk about driving safely to your destination, ensuring that you get there so that you can help the person who needs help. And if you, as a police officer rushing to a call, drive unsafely and you get taken out of the game because you crash, you're useless. And you've now utilized or you will be utilizing additional resources, taking away from helping the public. So, guaranteed arrival, you drive safe and sound, and then you're useful when you get there. Not getting there doesn't work. So, do you get a free pass to drive like a maniac because you're trying and you're stressed out and you're trying to get to the ER? No, you don't. Could it result in you not getting there in time because we're going to pull you over? We're going to investigate. You got to stop. When we find out that there's an emergency on board, we're first aiders. We're going to get involved. We're going to call an ambulance to meet us right at the side of the road. We're probably going to be involved with first aid. Now, it's possible that an officer says, follow me. It's not likely because they'd be taking on all sorts of responsibility, liability. It's possible to say, we're going to move them into our car if they have authority to do that. If that gets passed by the powers that be, probably not because that's a liability issue. Now, what's the emergency? When we were having a baby, we we planned it. We went there early. We figured it out. We weren't panicked. We trained for it effectively. Getting educated is important. Knowing first aid is important. And it's also important to recognize that A, not everything is a life-threatening injury, even if there's an injury. Secondly, if it is life-threatening, stabilizing a patient before transport, really, 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 really important. If you just put them in a car and drive them there, you may not get them there, or they may not be with you when they arrive because they may have, femoral artery. 2 minutes you can bleed out, maybe less. So knowing first aid to tourniquet or put pressure on the wound while calling 911 and calling for someone who's actually trained to stabilize and move them, way better option. But I also acknowledge that people are going to do what they're going to do. It's not always a good thing. Chase says, "What's your favorite, or what was your favorite part of being a cop?" There were a lot of different things that I loved about being a cop. Being part of the team, helping people, like it's amazing how personally gratifying it is to help somebody. If you haven't done it, you really can't express how it is. Like it's good. And I was having this conversation last week saying that I used to feel selfish going out as an auxiliary volunteer, helping people because I got more out of it, I'm sure, than anybody else. I had so much fun doing it. It was awesome. So if you're benefiting, if you're personally feeling good about yourself because you're doing good stuff, that's a pretty good symbiotic relationship. You're helping people, you feel good about helping people. I think that's possibly the best thing about being a police officer. Now there's also bad days. There's really bad days. There's dark, horrible days. Police funerals being the worst. I've been to too many of those. Okay. Chase says, last summer I had friends with their plates pulled due to having no mufflers in London. If they were going to say that no mufflers made that unsafe motor vehicle, like that would be a justification. But I don't think simply having no muffler is um, a justification of both plates. It's a charge. If they made the argument that it was unsafe at that point, I think it's a stretch, but I guess they'd have to articulate that, and then they would pull the plates for that purpose. There's a lot of interesting. Maybe they have different policies there, but the law doesn't give a specific authority to pull plates based on mufflers alone, unless there was more going on. Maybe the tires were bald, maybe the suspension was lowered, maybe like there could have been other things that caused the actual. And then the story just said I had no mufflers, so I got pulled over and they took my plates. Probably more to the story. Okay. And Too Easy B58 says, I hate it when people like that in our car. Blah, blah, blah. He says he hates it when people have the loud, noisy, obnoxious mufflers with no cats and their straight pipes because it ruins the image for the entire car community. And I agree with you. How long? Oh, so Matthew says, how long after you arrive home are you still required by law to give a breath sample? So this is something that I'm going to have a great discussion with a former Crown soon, because there's a 2 hour rule where there's an assumption that if within 2 hours you still have alcohol in your system, you're believed to have had that alcohol back when you were driving. And maybe I didn't give the most eloquent description there, but essentially there used to be a defense where you get pulled over or you get home, you go inside the house and you chug a bottle, and now you blow high, and they say, I just drank when I got home. Well, that's no longer a defense, because that now, can an officer, based on driving complaints, come to your house, knock on the door, and demand a breath test? Yes. And I believe it still falls into the 2 hour rule. But things may have changed, and I'm that's something I have to get an update on. So that's something I will defer to the pros who are currently active in the to give me an update. But I'll look into that. I want a good answer for you. All right. If you know first aid, you know it's not first choice to put them in a car and rush assessment. Yes, assessment is first, 100%. Matthew says, as a civilian, I have helped people, and I agree it's the best feeling, 100%. Hassam says, what if my car gets hit by what is this? What if my car gets hit by a snow/ice pallet? How can I prove that of the causing vehicle flew by? So you mean by a sheet of ice that flew off a vehicle that was not properly cleared of ice and snow? Okay. I would say dash cameras are pretty important. How do you prove that damage occurred if you don't have a dash camera? You have testimony that a car that blew by that has no plate record, you're in trouble. Now, I had a situation just like that. Back in the 90s, I was driving to work, and I had an 18-wheeler go the opposite direction on the highway. And as a result of that 18-wheeler driving through like pooling water and slush, it sent a stream of slush across 3-4 lanes of the southbound DVP, and or at 404 in that area. And my windshield was knocked out of my car. It smashed into my lap. And about a dozen other vehicles in the road around me also resulted in immediate loss of control and collisions everywhere. And the entire highway ended up being shut down in that area. Uh, I was probably sitting at the side of the road for in a terrible snow condition for like an hour waiting for a tow truck. And it was cold because I had no front windshield. With the totality of what was going on, it was pretty clear that of what happened based on all the supporting testimony or statements from every other driver. But if that was just me by myself, they probably would have just pinned it on me. Okay. AC3 says, hello, Sean. How are you? I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Sorry it took so long to respond to your comment. Question from BK8148, who says, is it illegal to have a cell phone in reach, cup holder, or center console? I usually have it in my pocket, but do a lot of long drives and it's uncomfortable. I worry I'll forget it in my glove box. It's not against a lot to have it in your pocket. It's against a lot to use it. So if it's in your pocket and it stays there, you're okay. And if you are seen to be touching it, interacting with it, like the ideal situation is a proper mounted phone. Not only do you get to charge your phone that way, but it's safely mounted, and you know that no one can make an allegation that you were touching it because it's right there. Just don't touch it. Erica has a question. Oh, wait, yeah, that's the next question. Erica's question is the next question. Oh, we have Chicken Coop's questions. That's a dad joke for later. So Erica Goes Digital says, my son has interior red lights in his car. Is it illegal? No. In fact, we have interior red lights in the cockpits of airplanes and in police cars, because those red lights allow your eyes in the night, in the darkness, not to dilate, you don't lose your night vision. It's actually a suggested way of illuminating the interior of the vehicle. Now, should you drive around with it all the time? Probably not. It's pretty useless. But if you're using it to illuminate things within the vehicle without negatively impacting your night vision, that's a pretty solid use of them. It's not against the law to have those in your car regardless, but you shouldn't be driving around with interior lights on. It's just kind of a little weird. Just a little weird. John, what's going on, John? John says, doing dishes and saw your live. How's the week going, pal? It's good. I mean, talking about airfairness.com all day. Honestly, I went to the dentist and I sent them my video, which is on my YouTube channel, VoiceOver Cop, talking about Air Fairness, because I think it's the coolest thing since sliced bread. And I'll give a little plug to Air Fairness since we're talking about John's company. his company will do a sweep of your inbox of your Gmail account. And if you don't have a Gmail account, you can create a Gmail account and forward all your airline related emails into it and then allow it to sweep that account. Anyway, the point of the story is if you have eligible flights where you've had delays within the last 6 years, you might be sitting on money. You might be eligible for up to $2,000 per delay per person traveling with you. That's pretty serious. So I've already seen that claims have been made using my coupon code because if you use Shapiro when you check out, you save 10%. And it's awesome to get the feedback that people are saving money and or applying to get the money that is owed to them by airlines that the airlines may not want to pay you. Air Fairness helps out by identifying those trips and helping you make those claims. Pretty awesome, if you ask me. Yeah, I didn't qualify for any. I was kind of disappointed. Now I got to go fly somewhere just so I can get delayed. You ever want a delay? Now I do. now that I know how much money's at stake, just make me wait. It's good. Let's see here. Boom, boom, boom. Just scrolling back to see what else now I want to know, are the dishes done? How long ago have you been waiting for me to read that comment? Do they still use the car shakers in Ontario? Car shakers? It's a car shaker? He said, I didn't know VW made bikes. I don't know what we're talking about now. I'm totally not paying attention. Same reason paramedics don't run. Oh, why did chicken coops have two doors? Because if they had four, they'd be chicken sedans. Very good. I didn't wait till the end. Mind you, we're really we're 1 hour, 2 minutes. It's time to read dad jokes. Driver's ed dad, who's a Navy guy, says we use red lights aboard ship on the bridge and several other rooms. It's a really good thing. It really does save your night vision. Melody says no mufflers is an invitation to get an inspection. I think so. I wonder who does the inspection. I've never had an inspection sheet done. Like there's fixed tickets in the States and elsewhere in Canada, but I'm not aware of any fixed ticket inspection forcing document. And I was a traffic guy. I never did that. I just charged them for the appropriate charge. Okay. What if you refuse Matthew Matthews? What are we talking about? What if you refuse what? We're just scrolling back. Are you talking about refuse what? You're talking about breath sample? If you refuse to provide a breath sample, you can be charged for refuse. You know, the funniest thing I've seen, this person was drifting in snow. Cops came, he crashed, and they couldn't see it, and they didn't lay a charge. Insurance opened a claim and investigation, pulled the ECU and the EDR, and the crash and determined it was stunt driving. No kidding. That's awesome. They didn't lay charges as a result of it, but they probably denied any claim as a result of it. That's pretty awesome. Cars mostly A to B. People don't understand. You got a cool car. Come meet me in Cayuga. It's fun and legal. Yeah, track is awesome. Tracy, hi. How you doing? Melody says hi to Tracy. Tracy says hi to Melody. It's awesome. Breath sample. Thank you, Matthew Matthews. So yeah, if you refuse a breath sample, the charge is refuse. And people don't realize that. And this is one of the things. I had a great conversation with this former Crown, and we were both, not laughing, but discussing the fact that people don't understand that when you refuse a breath sample or when you're being given a demand for a breath sample, you don't have the opportunity of talking to a lawyer first. You have to provide that breath sample. And if you refuse, you done. You done. Liz says, third watch was 1999 to 2005. My boyfriend, now retired TPS sergeant in his platoon, loved that show. He also liked the movie End of Watch. Too sad for me. End of Watch was horrible, sad. There's so many, it's tough to watch police related content that triggers. By the way, the best show, my favorite current show, The Pit. I'm on season 2. Season 1 was spectacular. I cried. Like there were scenes, honest to God, I cried. It was amazing how triggered I was. But I'm getting emotional in season 2. I haven't wept yet, but season 2 is pretty amazing. And Tracy says The Pit is amazing. Yeah, it really is. I love it. Matthew Matthews says, the reason I asked is my son had a complaint. He was dry, but when the officer came, he refused and the officer didn't charge him. Listen, I've never utilized the come to the door knock business, and maybe refuse at home doesn't apply. I don't know. I don't want to give you bad information. If you were in a car and you refused a breath sample, you're getting charged. At home, I got to do some research because maybe the officer just didn't want to rely on it. Maybe he determined on his own. that your son wasn't impaired. I mean, that's something that we'll have to talk to the Crown about, the former Crown, because that's a great question for him. I'd love to know more. The law changed while I was off the road after my collision. I've never employed it. I've heard of people going to the front door. It was news related to it. There's obviously a precedent. There's obviously a lawful authority. But does the officer want to go down that road? Maybe not. Depends. I don't have a good answer for you. What do we have here? Driver's ed dad says, I once saw Deputy Slope have someone refuse a breath sample. He arrested them, took them to the depot, and got a warrant for a blood sample. So, yeah, there's different levels. Like blood samples are generally not going to happen unless you are in a situation where you are injured. Like if you're incapable of providing a breath sample, we're talking about in Canada. If you're incapable of providing a breath sample because you've got facial injuries or you're unconscious, then blood sample becomes a viable option. You're not capable of refusing, so we can't charge you for refuse. You're incapable of providing even if you wanted to. So that's where blood samples would be procured. And they type up the appropriate paperwork. In the event that you say, I'm not giving it to you, oh, don't threaten me with a good time. You've just made an open shut case that's going to get you the same consequences as though you failed. Refused breath sample is pretty simple. We have video of you saying no. We ask you again, you say no. You ask you again, we explain the consequences again, and you say no. That's it. You've just convicted yourself. No toxicologist, no major. Where's your defense? Ain't got one. So, yeah, that's the people think they're being tough. They're screwing themselves, because when you roll the dice, if you've been drinking and you roll the dice, you at least have a chain of command, a chain of events that will potentially give you a defense, or not a defense, but a way out. So you hire a lawyer, you spend your $35,000 to $55,000, and maybe you get off. You're not getting off of a refuse, in my opinion. What are you going to have? What evidence could you possibly provide to justify saying no to a lawful demand, which has consequences if you fail? On the flip side, though, you might luck out. Toxicology report, you convince someone, totally. And Matthew says, cooked. That's what you are when you refuse. Cooked. Awesome. Well, listen, it's a minute. It's an hour and 7 minutes. So that an hour and 8 minutes that we've been doing this. We have JC who says, currently on the job, had situation someone refusing a breath sample while attending the residence. Please tell me more. What's the lawful authority? Can they refuse? Can they? I assume they can't. But how does that play out? I gotta see where things are now, because that was new when I was leaving. It'll probably been around for a year or so. Was it 2018 when it came into play? I don't remember. 404 not found. Good name, by the way. Says, hey Sean, can we talk about stunt? What do you want to talk about stunt? I will refresh and we'll add 5 minutes before I go, because I do want to wrap this up before it's tomorrow. I like getting good sleep. But I'm happy to talk about stunt. What is it that you want to know about stunt? The fact that it could be speeding, but doesn't always have to be speeding. Could it be that it's very often misunderstood, because people think that it's simply that it's simply speeding. It's more than speeding. It can be 40 over in a speed zone that is under 80. It is 50 over in a speed zone that is 80 and above, and it's 150 anywhere at stunt driving. And it's going to be not only a roadside suspension of 30 days, it's going to be a 14-day vehicle impound. Upon conviction, it's going to be a further 1 to 3 year driving prohibition, a $2,000 to $10,000 fine, and up to 6 months in jail. Although I say jail is rare, but it's been happening for egregious cases. It's been happening. Now, there's other ways to trigger it. It's not just speed. It could be, hitting the gas and taking off and weaving through traffic to a marked departure, as the wording says. It could be wheelies or drifting or donuts. Like, there's a ton of different ways. In fact, it's 13 different triggers. I think it's 13 different triggers. Ton of things. I was talking about on the Jerry Agar show on News Talk 1010 last week. Okay. JC says, wouldn't open the door, willingly refused, warrant sought for the arrest after the fact. No kidding. So by not opening the door, refusing. to open the door? What if they just went to bed? Is that, would you still, and what would the warrant be for? Warrant for arrest for refuse? Mm, interesting. Um, 404 wants to know why do the Crown make you plead for less? Yeah, PSA is don't refuse. DM me. I'd love to know what service. That's really cool. I didn't know um, that they were taking such an excellent pursuit of that. I didn't realize it was so actively used. Chef Fowles, thanks for the rose, and Berg Mutka, thank you very much for the donut. Any monies received by way of gifts from any platform or anything go to the Canadian. Uh, it's better traffic. Can't remember. I'm tired apparently. The Canadian Organization for Better Traffic Safety and Education. It's a mouthful. Emily says, please, another PSA, please don't drink and drive. That's a very, very good message. And why does the Crown make you plead for less? So this is an interesting concept. Very often to save the court time, money, and to give you an opportunity not to ruin your life. And that's really what a stunt driving charge will screw you up financially. And if you need your license to drive, like it's a 1 to 3 year driving prohibition, in addition to the suspension you've received, not to mention the fact that you're going to be in a real bad place when it comes to insurance rates. If you rely on your license to pay your bills, you're going to get hungry fast because you've chosen to do something that's real dumb and has real life consequences. Now, the second time you're convicted, and people oddly enough actually get convicted multiple times in this, well, it's now a 3 to 10 year driving prohibition. You don't even have the choice of 1 year; it's 3 years to 10 years, another $2,000 to $10,000, another chance of getting 6 months in jail. And the fact that they had to write in a third, if you have any third or subsequent, convictions for stunt, because someone has rocks in their head, it's a lifetime driving prohibition. Because you went through a 1 to 3, a 3 to 10, and now you're just going to lose it. And it's still not going to stop people because people who don't care about the law don't care about the law. So the question is, why do they let you plead for less? Possibly to save time and money, possibly to avoid a long and costly trial, and possibly to give you a chance to take responsibility for your actions and not ruin your life. Possibly. I couldn't say what actually motivates them, but I'm speculating. Let's see here. Matthew says, for the record, I'm 100% against drinking and driving, and drilled that into my boy. Very good. Yeah, there's no excuse for it. And there's no excuse for using a cell phone while driving, which has similar results. It impairs the driver's ability to drive safely. It's done constantly in every other vehicle on the road. It's horrible. Doesn't have the same consequences. Maybe it should. Matthew says, but since someone calls in a complaint, it sucks. Yeah, well, here's the problem. It may have been, and this, I'm not saying your son did anything wrong, but if a complaint was made and it wasn't just a friend who playing a prank on them, or someone who was being nosy, or maybe they thought that the driving, which could have been a cell phone use, because it looks like I've called in impaired drivers because it looked impaired, but it was a cell phone use. It was an overtired cell phone use, but it was a cell phone use nonetheless. No alcohol involved. They're both serious, and they're both causing major collisions. It's interesting stuff. That man 22 says, I see a lot of people using their phones daily. It's every other vehicle. It's unbelievable. And I wish I join up to go back to the police service just to write tickets for cell phones. I can't stand it. I watch every other car holding their phone. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not hands-free. This is not hands-free. And yet I see people doing this as they drive. I see people in Bentleys doing this. Do Bentleys not have Bluetooth? Do luxury vehicles not have Bluetooth? Or maybe they're all the butler or the driver, and they're not allowed to pair their cell phone to the vehicle. But it's ridiculous. Chef Al says, I attempted to fight the ticket for 10 over. I received a Zoom meeting to fight or pay for $40. Would this affect my insurance rate? So if you had a meeting, what is it called? Is it preliminary hearing with a prosecutor? I can't remember the name escapes me of what the meeting's called. If you have a what is it called? Anyway, um, apparently words occasionally leave my brain. But the deal is that if you have a meeting with a prosecutor to discuss a plea deal and you don't like the deal, you can certainly go to a trial. There's no consequence for that for not taking the deal that they give you. Now, if you go to the trial and they offer you another deal, you can choose to take that deal or go to trial, and it's entirely up to you. Let's see here. And then Chef Val says that's correct. I had a paralegal for the first hearing. So you've already said no to the meeting with the prosecutor, and now this is the first trial to say that you're pleading not guilty. Until you have a conviction, there's nothing that affects your insurance. When you have a conviction, that's when it affects. And the big question is, you have 10 over. Um, were you going 10 over? Were you speeding at all? Like how are you gonna? You want to ask for disclosure. You want to find out what the case is against you. It's a minor speeding charge. It will affect your insurance, but if you have a first one free, then it may not cause the increase. May get rid of a discount, but it is something that we all have to worry about. Insurance is a serious thing now. There's the changes coming that are being talked about all over the place, and if you don't want to pay more, you want to make sure you're not breaking the law and not getting convicted of anything. But see what they give you as a second opportunity. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Most people just plead down to something like 10 over, but I understand. Chef Bow says, thank you, Sean, for being so prompt. Appreciate you. Oh, you're very welcome. Oh, really? JC says, got someone watching Olympics on their phone while driving last week. I have seen people watching full length, like Netflix, and I'm assuming other versions because I've seen different languages. Whatever the case is, I say different languages because it was very clear it was not an English programming. I didn't recognize it, so it must not have been that. I don't know. I made an assumption. I've seen all sorts of things. I've seen iPads on steering wheels. I have seen Zoom meetings. I've seen everything. And it is shocking that someone, that man says, I've seen someone have their iPad on their dash watching a movie. It's gross. And I've also seen modified dashboards and infotainment systems that are doing the same thing. How addicted to your device are you that you cannot put down the device? Listen, podcasts are great. In fact, I upload, although I'm a little behind, I upload these episodes in podcast format so that you can listen on the go, not burn your data and not break the law by watching me. What do you need to see me to participate in the show? Granted, it's not live, but you get to hear what shenanigans are going on. Okay, Liz says, heard on 680 News today that it will take up to 13 years to properly add road calming measures in replacement to the speed cameras that Ford had removed. Funny thing, I haven't received a copy of the thing, but CBC interviewed me about that today. And not only is it 13 years, but it's $52 million for traffic calming, not enforcing. So I'll tell you what I told them. I said, it's a pity. If those traffic calming measures were put into effect, wouldn't it be awesome to have that paid for by the people who are speeding? In other words, take the money generated by the traffic cameras to put in the traffic road calming measures, and then you would ease into a replacement. And even better than replacing them, just have them together, because if they were effective at stopping people from speeding, the camera would never trigger. You don't have to turn off the cameras. They wouldn't trigger. They wouldn't go, because the speed humps and bumps and circles would have resolved it, right? Bigger signs, all that jazz. But they're not going to do that. The speeds have gone up in the time since removing the cameras, not down. And in communities that have speed humps, I can tell you, possibly from experience, that you can go over a speed bump way faster than you think you can. It's not good. It's not good. It's kind of silly. That's what it is. Thank you, Liz, for triggering me. I lived through it once today. Let's see here. We got, 4 kids in a Porsche is here. Let's see what he's got to say. And then I'm leaving. Driver's Ed Dad says, one thing I often tell my students is, this is Driver's Ed Dad, not 4 kids in a Porsche. I'm not naive enough to think young people don't drink or do drugs. Don't do them and drive. And don't get into the car if someone else is. Yes, advocate for yourself. Make sure that you are in a vehicle which is being operated by someone who is sober. Four kids in a Porsche says, still believe hands-free should be speed-based to reflect risk, just like speeding. Hands-free under 30 kilometers an hour or less. Hands-free on highways is much more. Interesting perspective. The problem is it's a zero deal. Like you just can't touch it. Should the fine change? I don't know. I have mixed emotions about it because all you're doing is saying that if you're willing to spend, you know, $300, you can use your phone. But if you're not willing to spend 615 and lose your license for 3 days, then don't use your it creates a conditional situation. And the problem is any diversion of your attention away from driving is unsafe. But I do appreciate that worse happens when you're driving at highway speeds using your phone, generally speaking, than at slow speeds. Except when you take out a pedestrian at an intersection, because that makes the local roads more dangerous than the highway. So yeah, I think I've convinced myself that we shouldn't have tiered. I get like stopped in traffic, maybe. But even then, as soon as you allow the window and say that it's okay temporarily right now, well, then you just stretch it. I think it's got to be a hard no. But I appreciate your perspective. Driver's Ed Dad says, I wholly disagree for kids. And then Four Kids in a Porsche says, why have speed based on how much over you're going? Because it's riskier at 50 over versus 10 over. Same with hands free. It's riskier to do at higher speeds. Speeding is speeding. It's the same charge all the way across the spectrum. The only thing that changes is the fine. They calculate the fine based on the speed. But I appreciate what you're saying. It's the speed differential that's the biggest problem. So that's why 40 over in a 40 is stunt driving, while 50 over in an 80 is stunt driving, and there's a slight difference. So I picking up what you're putting down, but I don't. Yeah. Oh, Driver's Dad retracts his initial statement. He says, I think I may have misunderstood the comment. I thought you meant that at slower speeds, you should be able to use your phone. No, he's just saying you should have a lesser fine. And I'm pondering. Shall ponder. Melody wants to know if Doug Ford has a buddy that owns a road construction company. Maybe. Californian Raisin says, finally made alive. Welcome. They want to know if I was OPP or TPS. I was TPS. It's Aiden says, do you much about the driving school requirements before getting your G2 and G license time? So if you're talking about when you qualify to write for your G2, you have to have at least 8 months if you have a driving school, an approved driving course. If you don't, it's 12 months. So you save a little bit of time, and that's it. California Raisin says, put your phone down, focus on the road. Sorry, no excuses. And I'm with you. I think I'm with you. I don't think there's any reason to justify it. And let me go, let's revisit the phone thing, because now we've gone down it. We've opened up a can of worms. Why do we have to touch our phones? Every phone that I own, okay, I currently only hold one, but I used to, it's the same thing. I used to have two iPhones because I had a work phone. Now I have two. Sorry, now I have one. But whether you have an Android or an iPhone, as long as you don't have a flip phone from the 80s or 90s, was it 90s? You can talk to it. Like, heck, I had a Sony Ericsson that you could tell it to dial for you. Now you can tell it to find out where the local, like plot a route to Mandarin and call them for reservations. So you can do anything. There's very little you can't do. Now, whether you can trigger it by saying, hey, so-and-so, I don't want to make everybody's phone go bananas right now. Or if you press the button on your steering wheel that's connected to trigger the voice responder, there's no reason. You can have it answer. You can have it read your emails. You can have it read your messages. You can have it compose your messages. You can make GPS coordinate destinations. You can have it make notes. You can have it make conditional notes, like remind me when I get home. It does so much. As I'm driving home, I can say, intercom my home, and it'll blast over the speakers my message to everyone in the house to say, get ready, I'm almost here. You can have it turn on your lights when you get home. There's conditional by GF. There's nothing you can't do, or very little you can't do, that you can justify putting lives at risk because you had to. Like, you just had to. You don't have to. And when we had better drivers when we had nobody with a phone. Pre-cell phone. And now, granted, my buddy, his parents had a mobile phone. He had a phone that looked like a house phone. Like, I can't even describe what it is now, but it was a home phone with a red button on the side. You picked it up, you pressed the button, it triggered an alert to the operator, and you said, "Hi, operator, this is account 12345. Can you dial 416?" And back then, you didn't even have to use the area code, but whatever. And it was an open line. You could listen to everybody else talking. It was more like a CB radio than it was a cell phone, but it was duplex. In any case, back then, you barely had cars with power windows. What was the distraction? Your air conditioning, if you had one. We had better drivers because there was no distractions. Now we have people who are so focused on their podcasts, their TV show, what they're making for dinner, if they're ordering their drive-through before they get there. Like, there's a lot of things that are distracting, and it ain't good. Okay. California Raisin says, I came from a time where when cell phones weren't a thing, we survived. Hell yes. That man 22 says, I've yelled at people for using their phones, almost hit me off my bike. Well, cyclists are really at a risk situation. It's terrible. And pedestrians and cyclists, we too many people lose their lives. And the first 5 in Toronto were pedestrians. Now, I can't state why because I don't know why it happened. Whatever it was avoidable because all collisions are avoidable. It's all driving and choices and walking and choices and riding and choices. Sometimes it's the rider that's at fault. Sometimes it's the driver. But at the end of the day, the soft, mushy person, and I mean that by being not protected in the cage, is far more at risk. So just saying. Matthew says, we had better driver before the testing system went to crap. Now anyone can pass. Yeah, we've lowered the bar in so many different things. Jay Furious 122 says, hey, Sean, nice to see you. If I'm making a right-hand turn onto a street with 3 lanes and the right lane is an HOV lane, do I have to turn into the center lane or do I still turn into the right-hand lane? Generally speaking, and I would use a guide as to where the painted markings are, and if you can see them in the snow. If you can't see the markings, I would make the turn to the closest curb because there's confusion. There's a video circulating where there was a red painted lane. There was clear markings as to where you should go, where the path was, in the video that I'm talking about. And the driver making the right turn went to the appropriate place, and the driver who made the left turn across traffic drove right into him because they assumed they'd be going into the right place. Well, the problem is, I just click? Hang on a second. Well, the problem is that there's confusion. So both drivers have to ensure that you can make the turn safely. The person making the left turn has a higher level of responsibility in that situation. However, you got to make sure it's safe to go. And if there's a guy coming and you're at an intersection where you think this may not go well, you should be using caution. But the driver who if you're talking about the same video, and maybe you are, the person making the left turn and drove into him was clearly in the wrong from my perspective. Storm Games and Vlogs says, hi, Sean. How you doing? Good to see you. I can put you on screen. I'm so excited that this works through this interface, except on TikTok. TikTok can't see it. What do we see here? Anyway, did that Jay Furious, did that make sense to what I was just talking about? Did that answer your question, or because I sort of went off on a tangent based on the video I saw, as opposed to directly answering your question? Because the HOV lane, most cases you should not be driving into it, but use the markings as guide. And I would honestly say that if you think it's really in question, like if you're really confused, I don't think that an officer would fault you for making the turn into the HOV or the multi-use diamond lane and then safely signal out of it. I think that if you're really confused, that might be the better choice. Whether it's legal or not is a different story. I'm just saying what I think the safest choice is. And driver's ed dad, what do you think? Do you have that in Nova Scotia? It's Aiden says, what do you think is the most difficult thing for new drivers to get used to while preparing for a G? Driving safely. I couldn't specifically say anything as a single thing preparing that's going to give them a difficulty for passing. What I can tell you is I think that there's a lot of distractions and staying focused and the desire to, the fear of missing out by not looking at their phone is probably a huge thing. And confidence, developing confidence that they're doing the right thing. So it's a big thing. but I don't have any good advice for specific things that are giving people a hard time. Braden Bain says, "What happened to voiceover cop? Oh, sorry, what happened to voiceover cop DeQuintal?" Well, voiceover cop is me. Peter DeQuintal is the Star Wars cop, and I'm not sure what's going on with him. I haven't spoken to him in a while, and I hope he's doing well. Vinny says, "Do you pillars that separate bike lanes to be dangerous? Do I think that the stanchions are dangerous? I hadn't really considered it. I haven't seen any collisions or issues with them. They're usually flexible. At least the plastic ones are. Everything's dangerous, but getting hit by a car or having a car drift into those or into the bike lane is probably more dangerous than the potential of hitting a plastic cone." California Raisin says, "I swear most people get their licenses out of cereal boxes. I've had 2 hit and runs in a year. Wow. Yeah, that's not good." Uh, Jay Furious, gotcha. Thank you. 4 Kids in a Porsche says, "Can you get a ticket for accelerating too quickly up to the speed limit? No tire squealing, just quickly accelerating up to the speed limit. Many EVs can accelerate crazy fast." Yeah, crazy quickly. This is 100% maybe. So the deal is that simply accelerating 0 to 60 doesn't necessarily result in a ticket. But if the officer who's watching, he's watching people jump out of the road, or you're zipping between traffic as you're doing it, could it result in careless? Could it result in stunt? Possibly, maybe, but I would say unlikely. I think simply accelerating in most cases won't result in a ticket. But if it goes badly, that's a different story. When people are driving, really, really quickly, and pedestrians were about to step into the road, which in most cases I don't think is a realistic thing, but I like to use it as an example because it's the interpretations of everyone around you. If it causes panic, if it causes other people and negatively impacts other people, could that be motivation for an officer to perceive that as a bigger threat than it may be? And could it result in charges? Doesn't necessarily result in convictions, but if they believe that it was worthy of a charge, they could lay the charge based on their belief, their suspicions. But yes, there are some lightning fast, not pickup truck, but I mean it's fast, but lightning. Anyway, there are some lightning fast EVs. I test drove some of them. I'm shocked at how quick they are. Driver's Ed Dad says you can, but there's conditions like length of lane, route plan, one way or two way. Are you talking about the whole turning business? And it's 11:32. It's thank you for a reminder that I've now done 32 minutes longer than I planned on. Folks, drive safe, drive sober, park legally, treat each other nice, take care of yourselves. We're in that shared space. If we just treat each other better, we'll go a lot farther for a lot longer and in a safer way. I see Storm Games and Vlogs says, "I was watching the bylaw officer giving out tickets at Walmart the other day for people parking in the handicap zone, and I laughed because it wasn't me this time. I got 1 ticket and learned from my lesson. Some others don't." I have an accessible permit, and that's because I was injured in a motorcycle collision in 2018. And I got to tell you that I felt guilty having it because I didn't feel bad all the time. I felt bad sometimes. And as I've healed and continued to heal, I used it less and less. And I would have a really hard time using it if I didn't need it. Flip side, my mom, who has since passed away, really did need it. Like, really needed it. And she felt guilty using it because she always assumed there was somebody who had it better or worse than her, and she wanted to make sure that they had access. So when someone who isn't unwell and isn't suffering and simply parks there without a permit, it's gross, and they should be charged and convicted and appropriately punished, because the people who need it, they don't want it, but they need it. And it's gross when someone does that. Gross, gross, gross. Okay. What is this? Cane Blade asking about mag dumping. No, I'm not sure how to respond to you, bro. I mean, I've trained. I used to be a competitive marksman, so but mag dumping, not a thing in a police environment for me. All right, that's it. I'm out. Green and Slice. We'll see you on Tuesday morning. Yeah. Yeah, California Raisin says, "Wow, those who need it don't want it." 100%. Okay, I'm outie. Have a great night. Talk to you soon.